Welcome to Future Left Podcast. I'm Adam Simpson, here with Casey Rogers as always. How are you, Casey?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
All right, good. But anyway, this is Future Left Podcast, where we talk about all things future and progressive and such.
Like
the coming gender singularity.
Oh, wow.
Where we all our parts just basically mold it. I don't know. But and then
gonna
also
implode under the density.
the genetic redistribution of wealth.
Or the redistribution of genetic wealth.
Okay, whatever. I don't like to read off script, but if that's what you're into.
Improv.
Anyway, we're actually in the same location today.
For a change.
We're currently holding one another as we record, not with our hands.
Wait, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know. Our main discussion today is going to be about open access and intellectual property and patents and all that kind of stuff. Does it get in the way of innovation or does it protect inventors? Be sure to visit us at futureleft.org, where you can get all our original content, including other podcasts, including other stuff. And then, but also visit us at Facebook and also on Twitter at FutureLeft, @_FutureLeft, duh. And we're also on other things like SoundCloud and Stitcher and LinkedIn and I don't know.
Etsy.
And Etsy. He loves saying we're on Etsy, even though we're not. No, check us out on Zazzle. You can buy a sticker. No, you can't do that. But yeah, moving right along, we're going to do it in the Bleeding Edge News Chats, where we talk about some of the story from the past week. Of course, so you can subscribe to the Bleeding Edge newsletter at futureleft.org, by the way. But the top story this week, I think, kind of a sad story. It's actually Sunday the 12th when we're recording this, and we woke up this morning, and some asshole brought a big old gun to a big old gay club.
Some asshole named Omar Mateen.
His name is Omar Mateen.
Apparently, Omar's dad said that he didn't think it was anything to do with religion or anything like that. He said it rather had to do with a gay couple that his son had seen kissing earlier in the week that had driven him to a murderous rage, which is problematic.
We've all been there. Oh yeah. No, yeah, it's weird that that's one that's like the father's theory. His father was like, it has nothing to do with religion. Okay.
Right.
Him being a Muslim is secondary. He said the thing about this guy, his father keeps emphasizing, is that he hated gay people.
Yeah, so he's not a bad guy. He's not a terrorist. He's just a really horrible dude.
Yeah, but the thing is, I suspect that he's both.
Yeah, I would expect that he's both.
Yeah, this is the day of, so it's awkward to talk about it because probably everything we'll say will turn out to be wrong. That his name was actually like Bill,
and it also
Hader.
Well, it also seems messed up to say that a Muslim man is probably a terrorist.
It does,
but
normally hate crimes. This is apparently the worst mass shooting in American history, with 50 dead, 53 wounded.
It seems odd that it would be just because he saw
50's more upset.
It seems like there's more of an agenda here than just he saw two gay guys kiss.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a stretch to me, But apparently this guy is just notably, he was born in New York, so it's not like it's not those situations where, for instance, 9/11, some people came here on student visas. Or as conservatives want to believe that refugees come here and then commit terrorist accidents. This guy was born and raised in the United States.
Well, we know that American citizens go abroad and do this sort of stuff. Anwar
al-Awlaki.
Awlaki.
It's just a K. It's not. I don't think it's a Q. No, it is a Q. Very good.
I didn't mean to pronounce it as a Q. I just always say my K's like that.
Awlaki.
Okay.
There you go. Oh. But anyway. Oh. Enough of Casey's glottal action.
Sorry.
But yeah, there's a lot going on here. Already there's a lot of talk about guns being a central issue here, because he used the notorious AR-15. You might have seen it in such massacres as Sandy Hook.
Yep.
And countless other shootings. So, first question, Casey, you hate guns and freedom.
Sure.
Is this a gun issue to you?
Yes and no. On one hand, before I've heard the right make the argument that if everyone had had guns, this would have all been taken care of. I haven't heard them make that argument yet, which I'm sure is coming, but out of anger, I was like, I wish somebody there had a gun, fucking
Sure.
put that guy out of his.
The thing is, if the NRA had their way, and 350 gay men and women were all armed, and then some crazy man walks in and starts shooting people, I feel like it does turn into like a nightmare situation.
Well, as gun owners would say, not if they're trained as you have to be to carry your handgun.
Oh, okay. They're all dead eyes.
It's because you have to be. Everyone has to be a perfect shot to get their license.
Oh, okay.
No, it's
I
not
didn't
true.
realize that.
It's a horrible fallacy.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
And it does remind me, there's once upon a time the Black Panthers were all about gun rights, and that's what they were like. Oh, we're a Second Amendment group,
Yep.
and people were like, oh no, we don't like black people with guns.
Yeah.
I wonder how people would react if it was like there were just a bunch of armed gay men all over the United States. I feel like it'd make a lot of people uncomfortable.
as long as they're not Arabs.
Oh, okay.
Arabs.
Um,
No, and also I feel like the real issue here is this guy's personality and the ability for him in American society to harbor this hatred, whether it's religiously based or just
yeah.
him being an asshole.
It's
Which either way, he's an asshole.
more broadly, it's about
Mindset and education. I mean, we always say it, but I mean,
how did you go about a more kind of inclusive kind of education though?
I don't know.
Do you start
because I know that this has to do with. I think there needs to be more appreciating diversity, the appreciation of diversity taught in schools. But I can already hear the arguments from the right about how their kids have to listen to this liberal PC bullshit. Tolerance being that, and yeah. So.
No, well, I mean, a lot of people are like, maybe, we read some racist math problems last week.
We did.
Maybe we need
As if you couldn't hate math
that.
enough.
Yeah, maybe we need that in an opposite direction. Like Timmy's gender non-conforming parent.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get really
said
sexually graphic.
Oh no! Yeah,
That'd be demeaning.
yeah. Hank and Larry go on a date.
Oh no, Adam and Steve.
Adam and Casey, why not?
Okay. now we're just getting personal.
Slugger.
Don't get your hand near me.
Yo, you know what I'm doing. You know what I'm doing.
Bobbing for eels.
Oh,
what was that?
That means your penis. No, but I mean, I actually think that, that there. I don't know if there's a connection to ISIS or whatever. I mean, maybe it's wrong with me. I mean, but I don't know. It'd be silly not to think that I think that a Muslim guy with an automatic weapon, high capacity mags. I actually do think this is a gun issue, by the way. But there's a mass killing. I'm the lone wolf, but like at the same time, the idea that this doesn't have something to do with the broader wave of Islamic violent extremism, I think is
and not because of him, but because of the way it was carried out, like because of the objective facts on the ground that this was a mass killing with an assault rifle.
Yeah,
and that's. I mean, you're trying to be noticed. You're trying to make a broader point.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't seem like a guy who was tired of seeing gay people kiss.
Yeah.
Like we saw with after 9/11, guys would just go into 7-Eleven and shoot the Indian clerk thinking he was an Arab. They didn't go. I mean, there was the guy who went and tried to shoot up the Sikh Gurdwara. I think that happened a couple of times in different places, but generally that's something you see with more of an organized ideology, those sort of mass events.
Right. I do think it was interesting this go around that, because it was an attack on a gay nightclub, there was this debate like, is it going to be, some weirdo wearing flannel? Or is it going to be like a...
Flannel a gay thing?
No, flannel being like a guy from like Utah or something that hates people that are different.
Gotcha.
And he shows up. But no. I suspect it was someone from the transnational jihadist movement who also hates gay people. So in a way, there's an opportunity for common ground here. I'm just kidding. Of course, there's not.
Or I think it's another false flag.
Yeah.
As we both noted, it has Bashar al-Assad written all over
Yeah.
it.
I mean, if you think Condi Rice doesn't, no, I'm kidding. She's a lovely woman.
She did a commencement speech at my graduation.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great.
Thank you.
The once and future queen. I don't know what I'm talking about. Probably delete all the Kanye Rice stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, but this has got lizard person written all over it. We don't talk about the lizard people.
We don't talk about that.
We're afraid of the Bilderbergers coming after us.
Nah, the burger builders.
Whatever they are these days. Probably.
Our new favorite reaction to nonsense, probably.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I've been kind of sitting on like a paper about violent extremism. Maybe I should work on it so we can get it out next week. But there's a lot of elements to it, like there's a behavioral psychology issue that a lot of people don't think about. Really, and there's like a lot of environmental stuff. The CVE work that I just can't stand is the counter messaging thing. I don't really get why it's important to engage with them in like an ideological argument.
Yeah, and it's a similar thing to whenever they think that just because David Duke supports Donald Trump that we should hear him in the news. It's like I don't want to hear from these people. I don't want them to have a voice.
No. I mean, like a lot of counter messaging stuff. It's like the Saudis or the Emiratis will get scholars to like go on Twitter and argue with them, or get on blogs and argue with them,
as if they're going to hear that it's scientifically not sound. They're going to go,
they were like, oh, this guy from Saudi Arabia. Well, my friend from Saudi Arabia thinks something else. But anyway,
I just didn't have all the facts.
I just think that it's a lot more personal than just like, if you can just like write a really good persuasive essay, and you're going to end this whole thing.
Yeah, you're not going to convince these people because they go through life avoiding everything that would convince them.
Exactly. But yeah, it's something to think about. All of our thoughts and other things with the people, with the victims there and their families. It's just terrible news. But that's definitely, it'd be weird if we didn't mention that, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But the main thing that I was looking forward to talking about, we're shifting gears quite a bit. This is going to be a weird one. But,
not for us, though.
Yeah. This is par for the course.
Par for the course.
Yeah, we're talking about sex robots today, Casey.
Sex robots.
And of course, we'll tell you that the story came from The Guardian. It's written by a woman named Deborah Orr.
It's got a hilarious picture.
It's got a picture from actually the BBC show Humans, which I told Casey to watch because it's pretty good.
I didn't do it.
He didn't watch it. It is about AI robots.
AI.
Stop it.
Sorry.
No. But the title of the article, "At Last, a Cure for Feminism, Sex Robots." And basically it was written by this lady that I think is not a fan of the whole sex robot thing.
Her article's a bit cheeky.
It is. Yeah, no. There are a lot of questions raised. First of all, the article was spurred by a professor named Noel Sharkey, who quote is fairly liberal about sex, but he's worried about the effect of these robots with naughty bits.
No, they're naughty, Adam.
No, it's true. With
Body
the
positive.
dim good bits. That he's
either.
worried about
Sorry.
sex robots and how they might impact people's ability to form human relationships. And this woman took a kind of the angle that there was a lot of sexual objectification of women continued by such technologies. So there was a lot of assumptions that this was creepy, and I think me and Casey disagreed about it. Casey, did you think this was creepy?
I mean,
this is problematic. Sure,
I don't know if I'm thinking about creepy. I know there's definitely things I find creepy, and there's nothing wrong with me saying it's creepy, but from an objective standpoint, it's very hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's people who are going to look at this and be like, "Oh, that's hot. I want to do that."
Me and you probably agree that like if like let's say we had a friend and his name's Donovan and he walks in the room and he's like, "Guys, you'll never believe I just bought this redheaded android." And boy, the things I do to that, we'd be like, "Donovan, get the hell out of here."
I'd be like, "My God, why does it look like Michael J. Fox?"
Good one.
Because it would.
Yeah,
and first of all, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Because Donovan's always doing stuff
boy.
like this. He's a really bad boy.
No,
he's naughty.
I guess I'd be like, what? I think my reaction actually would not be about creepiness. It'd be like, are you okay?
Yeah. I'd be like, why are you doing this, man?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Why not just a regular lady?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not all they're for, certainly.
Sure, but like, yeah, it would be, like, because I imagine like how much money did he spend on this thing?
Right, and like the next time you see him, he's wearing the same clothes. He's got a few days growth.
Yeah, yeah. It's facial hair. He's
On
talking
facial
about.
hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Facial
Let's
hair.
be clear.
Yes.
But yeah,
Few
no,
hours growth.
it was. I mean, there was also kind of we talked about it like, do you view this as as objectification of women? Because I know the author here does. She I think she argued at different points that it should be banned, that it should be regulated, and that your doctor should decide if you have a sex robot.
Yeah, your doctor should decide if you're sad enough, medically sad enough to get a robot.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's objectification of women even more than video games or objectifications of people like Grand Theft Auto, where you're going around shooting people. And I feel like there's a different mindset involved with something that we know isn't real. Now, this is on the borderline because we're trying to make them as real as possible, and they can be pretty real.
Exactly. Like what if we get to the point where it's basically indistinguishable completely?
I mean, it's this issue of sexual objectification, I think, that gets me, because I mean, I don't think anyone thinks intellectually that other people are just for their sexual gratification. I mean, even if there's people with that life policy, I think they still know that this isn't why they believe.
I feel like there are people that definitely act like that. Some people that basically say that. There are these men's rights people,
but I don't think it's a belief that people assent to. I think it's a behavior. But like, I don't know. I guess I've never understood how objectification works. I mean, I understand what it is, but I can never imagine. I don't know, it's sort of like racism. I don't imagine people actually thinking their race is better than other races, but we still call that racism.
I mean, certainly there are people.
Sure, there's supremacists, but I think for most people, I think it's a behavior that either has been learned or hasn't been prevented.
All right, so if you think that sexual objectification of real women is something, do you think that that's something that having a sex robot will have any impact on? Will it make it more likely? Like if you have like a woman-esque object in like a suitcase under your bed or in your closet,
in my mind, that'll
you pull it out and you like put its legs where you want them. Is that gonna
if you want the legs on the other side of the room?
Yeah,
I like them disembodied.
Yeah, if you're into that, I just get a sense. In my mind, it seems like it's kind of almost conditioning you to
it's like people who are trying to become vegetarians, but they eat tofu shaped like meat. It's like you're not really killing the desire for meat there.
Well, I don't know.
It works in a metaphorical way, certainly not to a degree, but like
you shouldn't objectify women, but you could definitely compare them to food. No, I'm kidding, Casey. I'm just breaking your balls.
I was talking about doing something that's an artificial version of the real thing. Can sometimes feed the loop. And
it is kind of, as you said, like video games. Like I'm a big believer that like when I play Grand Theft Auto and murder just everything, I don't think it has any impact on whether I would murder real things. But I feel like there's so much distance between it that. Between me and the character on the screen and
that's something that
fictional place.
That's something that we've learned.
Of course, but let me finish before you speak. But I feel like if it was actually made like if I had like a really hyper realistic virtual reality like the Oculus Rift, if it wasn't so shitty, then you felt stabbing. I feel like if I did that and was like, yeah, I fucking won because I murdered that thing again. I feel like if it's real and it feels real and it's such an effective simulation that it's nearly indistinguishable, like your interaction with this kind of object that you have imbued with feminine attributes to suit your little fantasy. I just get a sense that that's different than Grand Theft Auto is what I'm trying to say.
I don't feel like it's as bad. I feel like wanting to kill something is much worse than wanting to have sex with it.
No, I just feel like.
So like I feel like a lot of people, if it was so much like killing someone, like if you were up close to them face to face and stabbed them and they suffered,
and then like it told you about their kids.
I think people wouldn't want to play that game.
Yeah, it might be a little
but
real.
people will want to have, because that's one of our basic human needs is sexual gratification.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that dissociate that from emotional attachment. I know a lot of people who have it as their philosophy that promiscuity is where it's at.
Yeah.
And that we're sexual beings first.
Yeah. You're looking at me weird when you say these things.
I think it's better to want to have sex with something because we all have basic sexual desires.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't all have the same sexual desire to stab someone in the face and watch them die.
We don't have like maybe you'll disagree here, but isn't there a difference between our ingrained need to have sex for most of us and the tendency to sexually objectify particularly women, although maybe there are some women that like to get their hands on a sex robot that's a boy and just objectify the hell out of him.
I don't know if it's objectifying to be sexually attracted to something, and like masturbation. I mean, usually you're not just thinking about your own hand, so something is going to be.
I got a really good hand.
So generally, something's going to be made into literally just an object of sexual desire for that period of time, and I don't know how much different this is. I also don't think someone who has a sex robot who looks maybe like a specific celebrity come in the box, they unwrap it. Like I feel like the whole time, if ladies get it, it'd be a dick in a box.
Yeah.
But if you, I think you can't escape the fact that it's not real the whole time, so I don't think people will be like, oh, it's no different having sex with this or than with a real woman. I still think people are going to be very cognizant of that, and I don't think that will be feeding the objectification of real women. I think it'll just be literally having a physical sex object.
But I don't know. I think it would be difficult for it not to bleed into your normal relations.
Why would it do that any more than any other private sexual thing?
Because if you watch a lot of porn, your expectations for sex are all out of whack when you go and you trick someone into having a mutual experience with you.
Not necessarily, I don't think.
You don't think so?
No.
People don't, but like boys and girls, neither one act the same. Act that way in the privacy of their own yurt. Sorry.
Who lives in a yurt?
I don't know. I do. What two actual humans, the way they have sex is not how
people have sex in porn, but sometimes it must be.
Sometimes, but like that's not a normal.
And sometimes,
sometimes
couples are like,
and the way generally that men treat women in porn is very different from the way.
I don't know. I don't see as much violent porn as you do, probably. But
no, almost certainly not.
No, but I think there's a lot of couples who like watch porn together and they're like, hey, let's try that. So they would like to try and make it like
a porn. Lot. Yeah, I know. I find that difficult to believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. That it happens a lot. Not that it doesn't. I'm sure it happens.
Maybe I should have said plenty. Maybe I should have said plenty of.
I don't get a sense it's representative of most couples.
I don't know.
What I'm trying to say is you're a freak.
Oh.
No. The final point was about I wanted to get into porn, and then we were transitioning quite nicely, and then I was like, "Nah, hey."
Oh, I thought you at some point in your life wanted to get into porn.
No.
I was like, no,
that
that wouldn't work.
No, I wanted us to get into it.
Oh.
No.
Always time.
All right, so. No, I mean I do think it's problematic, and having sex with robots, that's gonna be with us forever.
Adam's a little prudish about sex.
I guess I am. I mean, it's something I learned about myself through this podcast. I make all kinds of jokes about dirty sex things on OkCupid, but
are you really doing that though?
Yeah, but the sex worker thing last week and this week, like maybe I'm a little more moralistic about it than I realized. I don't know. I feel like this kind of thing, like when you're having sex with a robot, and I don't know. It's certainly maybe I'm just completely wrong, but I get a feeling it's not.
It's not ideal.
I feel like it wouldn't be good for you, and that's probably all feelings.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem different than masturbation to me.
No, because it's so nearly reality. Not like
masturbation is reality though. It's literally your hand. It's like a real hand. And once again, it's not about the hand.
You know what I mean? Like fantasizing about a mutual experience is very different than like
That seems like romanticism a little bit.
It probably is, but
Because you have this unspoken value on a mutual experience.
yeah, no. Well,
the opposite of a mutual experience isn't unconsensual sex.
No, I know that, but
there's a lot of lifeless sex out there.
Happily married. Yeah. No, maybe you're right. Maybe I just gotta get this bee out of my bonnet. Stop putting the pussy on a pedestal, as they say.
As they say in
that one
Dr.
movie.
Phil said that, I think.
Yeah, no.
You gotta stop.
Hey guys,
I'm gonna need you to stop putting the pussy on a pedestal. Okay, he's a little bit of Mr. Mackey in there.
A little bit. But I think we're going to turn to our conversation about open access and innovation. So joining us now is Michael Bufano. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Adam.
Our main topic today is open access, which I think it's an item near and dear to my heart. I think it's pretty neat.
It's a slippery slope to hell.
Oh, okay. Well, Casey disagrees with me in some sense, apparently. So yeah, this was kind of spurred because in the EU, those folks have decided that by 2020 they should probably just have all publicly funded research available, free to access and free to reuse, or at the very least, or not at the very least, but I think to the extent that all research that relied on publicly funded research.
And who wouldn't like all that access, Mike? Doctors would have access to the newest medical info and save some lives, right?
Well, it wouldn't save lives. It would slow down the pace of innovation, right? So this all sounds good on paper, right? This idea that I'm going to open up information to everybody. Okay, but what happens when I take away that incentive for people to be able to profit off the research they conduct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that because as we were reading, we read a few articles today. One of them in the Atlantic from January of this year about basically a petition at Elsevier, but there was an article by Elsevier being one of the largest publication companies for academic and scientific works. But it was by Jane C. Hugh in the Atlantic. Academics want you to read their work for free, so she claims. Yeah, Mike, me and you disagree a lot on this. Apparently, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it would stop anyone from doing research, not just because the publications themselves don't really generate a whole lot of wealth for the people who are doing the research.
I mean, look, it's not just the people doing the research; it's the people involved with the publications themselves who have to earn a profit. You need to have an incentive motive, right, to be able to incentivize people to go into these fields. And by the way, a lot of people like getting their stuff published so they could get their name out there and so they could later sell books on these topics. Publishers, they have to invest a lot of capital into advertising their journals, getting it out to the public. They have to invest in the technology to get it out there. They have to pay people to be able to edit these articles, right? They don't just accept anything that comes to them. So there is a process of getting accepted, not getting accepted. They have to ensure quality standards. These things cost money to a good publisher. So there is money that they have to pay. They have to engage in peer review. So now, of course, if you take away the private sector there, then the public sector has to step in and fund this process, which means you then have to increase. Okay, so you have to pay for it through the public sector. So if you're willing to have a public sector option for for this free publishing, okay, but then you have to make a lot of political changes there.
I don't have a problem with giving more public funds to host articles that are, publicly funded research. I mean, I don't know why.
Yeah, and frankly, there is a lot of stuff that needs to be changed. Changed that are part of the status quo now.
I mean, the idea that the academic or scientific publishing would be up to what someone finds to be profitable is already a little grotesque. Theoretically, if they're publicly available in the EU, then anyone can get them in the world. This
Right.
could be huge for academia and science research. Not just we think of the cutting edge being in the developed world. Well, what's to say that someone with this amount of information and this amount of access in the developing world can't work on things that they want to work on? There's no profit about, there's no one telling them, oh, that's not profitable research or anything like that. but they're responding to certain needs, their own interests, their own medical conditions, whatever.
But how's someone going to make a living if they're not making things that are wanted?
You can make things that are wanted. First of all, it's like Mike even said earlier, you do research, then you write a book, or maybe you write an article. And really, most research is done through universities, through grants and such. Most journals are run through universities in part.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I just don't find it. I find it very difficult to believe that it would be bad for innovation. I don't think that's true at all. I think more people having access to this information could only be a good thing. And B, I think it opening up to the entire world could be really huge for science.
So those technologies are scientists who are just waiting to find the next piece to the puzzle to build on.
Right.
And
But would you apply this to everything, every single technological innovation that anybody can get access to it, use it for themselves, and make a profit off of it?
That's what I want to talk about later. We're going to be talking a little bit more about patents and kind of intellectual freedom. So we'll get into that in a minute. But let's stay on this just for a moment. Even if we're assuming that it's difficult to make a profit in this industry, or it would be difficult to make a profit otherwise, maybe there's somewhere, at least in the middle, we could meet. Because apparently Elsevier right now gets this is the big publisher, they have a profit margin of about 35%. Now, for a little perspective, Facebook has a profit margin of 27%. Obviously, they operate on different scales.
Sure.
But that's a pretty big markup, and their version of open access is we'll publish it for free if you pay this massive fee. I don't like
here's my question. If this is a free market here, why is it that people are putting their money into this company and not some other company? If they're overcharging, why isn't another market option kind of stepping in there to charge less if they are abusing the system here?
There's a bit of a monopoly there, and they are opening up things like there was one journal that Elsevier owns that basically left and started their own open access format of journal, and there's 12,000 academics and scholars that have pledged not to publish with Elsevier or the journals that it owns. So it's not as if there aren't other options springing up. Elsevier is just the behemoth of the industry. It's like Apple, I guess.
And it's so big that if you're like someone who wants to publish, if you don't publish with it, other people might not see your article, essentially.
Yeah. Their version of open access is like that, for instance, in one particular field, I believe linguistics, that was the subject of the Atlantic article about Elsevier. There's an option to publish it, quote unquote, open access, where anyone can access it. But the authors have to pay about $2,000, or it gets released behind a paywall when maybe you want this information to be freely accessible.
So this is all about how to make it profitable for the publishing companies.
Yes. Apparently, as I understand it, like the actual researchers and academics don't get much out of this at all.
But see, they should be the ones being paid for their ideas.
Yeah, that's actually something. One of the spinoffs from this linguistics publication was kind of demanding that there be co-ownership of the journal by the academics that publish in it.
But I think the idea here is, people, when there's a big industry changing idea, the person wants to be paid for every iteration of their idea used, sort of like residuals, or toys whenever they make a Star Wars movie. You want to get the money. You don't just want to get the money for creating the idea for these toys. You want a little bit of however much these toys are making in the current market, right? And I think that's how limiting access is able to do that.
I'm not really interested in the profitability. Maybe that's my own bias. I'm interested in what's best for academia and the sharing information. I don't know that these massive paywalls or these other financial barriers to information and access and to cooperation on big issues, whether in academia or in science.
Well, the issue here is that the industry is concerned with profitability and not concerned with what's the best for our society.
Well, before the coming of the internet and JSTOR, most people who wrote journal articles, they rarely left a couple of bookshelves and a few university libraries. Mm-hmm. The idea with these large internet websites is that now professors can get their work out to the masses for the first time. The problem is that these these websites charge money, right? They're a business model. They offer to promote your journal article in exchange for them, you paying money or putting it up there behind the paywall and having subscribers pay access to it. Wouldn't you say that it's right for somebody to, if they have an idea like setting up a website like this, that they should be able to profit off of that, and that it's in fact that this has actually facilitated knowledge being spread to the masses, that before the coming of these different types of private websites, that this information was locked, on bookshelves and was only gained access to by students who could afford the tuition.
I personally don't agree that these companies should be profiting off being gatekeeper to important information. That doesn't seem like a service. In fact, it seems like a disservice.
There was no gate before that, though. You get what I'm saying? There was no gate. There was no, this information was locked up in a few universities. And now all of a sudden you have the emergence of this online community where people can, access this information, but they have to pay a little. Before, there was no option of having a subscription.
No, well, first of all, it's not paying a little. I don't know if you've ever tried to buy an article off JSTOR.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
It is, and I've tried to get it for my students for the school. I tried to get an online library, and that is expensive. But what I'm saying is that there was the access wasn't there before.
Right, but the access can be provided, and that's fine. I know that's going to be a business. That's going to be, but what if it wasn't a business? I mean, what if it was? What if we had like obviously we have an education department, and for the federal education department, they're usually more concerned with running our educating institutions than actually educating themselves. What if this became a publicly funded? I know people are going to say, "Oh, the government, great," but what if? Because they wouldn't need to be as concerned with making a profit, and there would be an outlet for important information like that.
I think that's I could definitely come halfway on that, right? As if you had a public entity that stepped in there and provided that same service, then you could replace the market. Okay, there. So I think
that's a worthwhile use of our federal spending, which hasn't always been very interested in the public good. So I feel like that would be something that they could get behind with a little ideological.
But just a little rundown on some other people that have tried this open access thing. One of them, of course, being Aaron Swartz, who was famously tucked away in a closet at MIT and started downloading a bunch of articles off JSTOR. Faced a litany of criminal charges, most of them involving fraud, due to this kind of access before he ended his own life in 2013. Currently, there is Alexandra Elbakian, I believe that's how it's pronounced, who is a grad student in Kazakhstan. She actually studied in the U.S. for a while, though, that runs Sci-Hub, which publishes scientific journals online or it doesn't publish it, it pirates them and then hosts them on the site for free of access to anyone. Elsevier is actually one of the people that are trying to get her, but it can't because Kazakhstan. So it makes it difficult.
True.
Yeah. But so the battle over open access, I think, is an important one, and I don't know. I just find it difficult to believe that the only way that you can have any access is that someone fiercely prohibit access. It seems to me to be
a knowledge troll.
It seems to me to be someone imposing scarcity on an otherwise unlimited resource. Everyone on the planet could have 100 copies of a given report, and it wouldn't matter. And I don't know. I think public access is one thing, but I think it enables smaller universities and poorer universities around the world to kind of take part in the scientific and academic debates that I do think they have more of a contribution to, and that could be the front line of research as well, especially when in my mind I'm thinking about international development, which is part of my background.
But what if the researchers themselves were able to create a website, grassroots sort of thing where they publish their information, and that would be, and then they can. Would you have a problem with them charging a subscription to the website?
Let's say that Sci-Hub became something owned by all of the all academics on Earth.
Right.
That's silly, but and that just becomes the place where anyone goes for any research.
Sure.
The problem I think would be that there wouldn't be much to that it wouldn't be publishing there probably wouldn't be a feather in your cap toward getting tenure, which is what academics want in order to.
Right, but that's problematic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of quote unquote practical things in the way of this information being available, mostly having to do with people getting money.
Yeah.
So do we have to take those into account, or should we get rid of those structures?
If you go with the public option, I mean, obviously, it's you could pass the cost down to, the elite where they have to pay more taxes, and then we establish this network where anybody could get access to info. But there's always the issue of, people who are in favor of the private sector will say, but this will be less efficient, by doing it this way.
I mean,
that governments are known for wasting money and then blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, if we assume that
could,
like the government is going to build a website, or like my senator is going to have a say in the code, then yeah, that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, I mean, and just because it's in the like it's not done by corporations who want to make money doesn't mean it's not private. We see that part of the big open access thing is users just making something and then giving it to the community.
And I mean, the government has no problem hiring contract people to come in and non-government people to come in and work on things.
I mean, I don't know that the government is necessarily needed here. I just don't think that it's a great system that we just put up all of these walls and barriers to information that could lead to more.
It could
research.
just be open. It could just be free access to everybody.
Yeah, there's nothing.
But there's this industry built around unnecessarily putting them through a capitalistic filter, I guess.
Okay.
I was just going to comment on Aaron Swartz for a second. There's a lot I admire about this guy. I mean, one of the websites, watchdog.net, and his attempt to help whistleblowers. He did a lot of great things, but I feel that some of what he did crossed the line in terms of online piracy. It's one thing if we talk here about changing laws and to create public, open access journals where people could freely publish their stuff online. It's another when we start to steal from those journals without their permission and then just dump it online. I think there's a better way to do it, and I think the way we should do it is by interacting with government, trying to get them to reform and pass new laws.
I feel like Aaron Swartz really forced a conversation, though, and that people really weren't having about open access. Not that he was the one that came up with open access, but the like his case, I think, really elevated the idea and issue in a way that hadn't been done before.
Do you feel there's another way for? I mean, I know with like Edward Snowden, right? What he did, obviously broke a lot of laws, but he really brought out this incredibly important issue affecting all of us. Do you think there's a better way for people like Schwartz?
No, I think you can push change faster.
Who can?
People
So-
than by waiting for big institutions to wise up.
Right. When you go within the existing avenues, you're still playing the game that you're trying to get around.
Open access that doesn't need really to be restricted to the digital space. So we talked a little bit about intellectual property and patents, or we all did some reading this week about it. Let's extend this debate, as Mike kind of wanted to earlier, into the physical realm with patents. So there was an interesting article on TechCrunch, and it was about how 3D printing was likely going to very much explode in the year 2016 because of all of these expiring patents. It was going to kind of propel it forward in a similar way to what it did in 2009. So at the end of all of these patents in 2009, similar thing happened to the 3D printers. Is that gonna and it was kind of talking about it predicted that there would seem a similar flourishing of cost reduction in 3D printing. One interesting thing was that in 2000, before the patents ended, 3D printers could cost as much as $10,000. Within the next few years, today you can get one for about $1,000, which is a 90% decrease for all you math nerds. Still can't afford it, but it's very interesting. It's one of the technologies I'm most excited about. See where it goes in the next 5-10 years.
Isn't the issue really here that we should get rid of capital as an incentive to do things?
That's true.
Should we just get rid of money and have everything be free and need-based?
So, I want Casey to be quiet, but I want to bring Mike in here. Like, what do you think about patents and these kind of things? Does this propel innovation by protecting it, or does it inhibit innovation by preventing collaboration between other, in the marketplace, people who become competitors and such?
Patents and the rule of law that protect them, they're an obvious driver of innovation. Over the last 200 years, they've, with the backing of the state, patents are what enable people who come up with creative ideas to be able to profit off of them. Just to give you an example of this, a little bit of research to back it up. Zarina Khan, she wrote this book called The Democratization of Invention back in 2005, an economist. She did a full study of various companies and inventors going back several centuries, and she found the greatest driver of new technology were people who wanted to profit off of what they were making. And by the way, if you get rid of patents, this will be a great thing for large companies. Think about it. Let's say if you're Microsoft and they're competing with some schmuck in his garage. They come up with a great idea for a new piece of software. Bill Gates says, I like that software. I'm going to take it. He's got the capital. He's got the infrastructure to move it. In the future, where's the incentive for that guy to make anything else? Well, when you think about, like, if you go back to Alexander Graham Bell in the 19th century, the Economist magazine back then was condemning the patent because it was slowing down the innovation of the telephone. But Alexander Graham Bell made money off his invention, and eventually, the patent system itself, it works to inspire innovation. Now, you're right, it does have that temporary slowdown aspect, but we wouldn't get that initial invention to begin with without that incentive to make the profit off of it. That's the argument, at least so it goes.
I don't think that you can't make a profit without keeping other people from using the same technology. People had to invent other methods of 3D printing because this one was off limits to them even tinkering with, which I think is a really unfortunate side of patent law and innovation.
But I think it's the best part of it. Think about it from this perspective. If someone else has a patent, I have to think, okay, if I want to make money, I've got to do something better or something different. And it forces people down different directions.
You're not allowed to do it better. You're not allowed to touch the technology because it belongs to them.
Adam's assuming that in order to build the next technology, you need to build it off the current technology.
Well, yeah. I'm not
always.
It has to be. No, I agree that not always, but I think it's silly to try to go forward without at least having the opportunity to build on what's there.
But eventually it will, because patents expire, right? And eventually other people can then.
In this case, this was about 16 years of people not being able to work on these technologies, and I think about how fast technology is changing these days, and I feel like waiting over a decade and a half to be able to put like some of the best minds in the country on a project is silly. And even these big companies like Apple, like Google, and others like that, they do have pretty a substantial amount of open access research projects.
And also, chances are, in 16 years, the company who made the current generation of technology and who only have access to their information will have made the next generation. And so, just as the first one's, just as part one is becoming released, part two is possible.
Let's like move the discussion to countries that don't have patent law, authoritarian states where there is no rule of law, and crony capitalists with connections to the government can abuse those below them, and they can steal other people's ideas. And this decreases the amount of innovation. So you take a country like Egypt, where copyright law is, almost non-existent. I mean, it's kind of silly, just the amount of plagiarism and violations of trademarks and copyrights you'll just see on the streets when you look at business signs.
Like it wasn't that long ago that in the United States it wasn't a big deal. Like songs were passed down, and not that Egypt is decades behind, is like a millennia behind us, but there wasn't a time so long ago when the idea of you singing someone else's song was not bizarre at all. Today we think of it as horrendous, but it drives innovation because people's ideas are protected by the state temporarily to allow them to profit off of it, no matter how big or small they are. So even if they are not the member of the crony capitalist class, they can still make a profit off of that invention. So that's something that, unfortunately, in Egypt, it gets violated very frequently. I'm thinking really in terms of, like, I actually, people always talk about competition being the best part about capitalism. I really do think it can get in the way of collaboration and innovation. I mean, why like the presumably the smartest people in the country currently work at Google and Facebook or whatever, and they're innovators in the startup community. Most of them in Palo Alto. And I'd certainly like to see that process democratized.
I think
and
the issue is that it's harder to incentivize cooperation than just incentivize.
Perhaps.
Competition.
Certainly it can be difficult. I mean, I don't know. Like when I write an article, it's never out of a vacuum. It's never because I haven't read someone else's thoughts.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I do my best, and it's not that I do my best. I always credit them. I'll have a link to their article from in my own. But I mean, the idea that you're supposed to not touch the ideas of your peers is silly.
Right. Bill Gates had the integrated circuit.
Yeah. Everyone builds on something. That's certainly true.
Here's the problem with this. If you have no systems in play, you say, okay, there's free and for everybody can use each other's technology and ideas. What this creates is anarchy. And whenever you have a state of anarchy, there's always going to be some other type of system that will fill in the power vacuum. In this case, it'll be very large companies that will be, whoever has the more capital and a bigger infrastructure will be able to snatch up all the good ideas that do exist and be able to drive everybody else out of business.
How is
and
that
then
different though? Because in my mind, the patent stuff seems to me, it strikes me as basically legally protected monopolies in a lot of cases.
Well, it's a temporary protection for somebody to be able to make a profit off of it. And then eventually the patent ends. And then once it gets released, others then can freely use it. So it's, it does slow down innovation, but it encourages it because people can then make a profit off of it.
Absurd sums of money.
Now, I feel where the cooperation comes in, you could argue, okay, maybe we should lower the amount of years. And you're right. And of course, do we need somebody who has $64 billion out there, right, Adam? This is something I don't agree with. Yeah, there needs to be taxes on capital gains. We have to, obviously there's, when I talk about incentives for making money, I'm talking about making enough to, have a house, provide for your family. But people aren't just going to go out there and do this stuff for free, right? They need at least some incentive to work hard to be able to produce some of these new technologies.
No, I'm all about seizing the means of production, so I think all of that is pointless. But I don't think that people are driven only by profit, I guess, is my thing, and that's part of.
Or if they are, it's been conditioned.
Yeah, it's certainly conditioned. I don't know that, like, someone that works at Google, I don't know that they're not interested in the things that they work on, simply because they're not going to make an absurd amount of money. I suspect that they're still going to be involved. They go to Google for that because they can do what they want and get absurd amounts of money.
I suspect Bill Gates wasn't looking to become a billionaire when he was sweating in his garage, working on nerd stuff.
Right.
Oh, sure. Look. I'm like, let's take our little project we're working on, the future left, right? All of us here are very idealistic. We want this damn thing to succeed, right? And we want this to grow. But at the same time, we need capital to be able to expand it. You need to be able to make money to just get your ideas and your technology out there. So it's, there is even for idealists, they need to be able to eat. They need to be able to pay the rent. So it's, I don't get me wrong. I'm not in favor of unrestricted, earnings of capital. And, there has to be, limits on what business owners can do and innovators can do. They can't destroy the environment. They can't destroy other people's ability to live a healthy, safe life. But there does have to be some incentive for people to wake up in the morning and to be able to, at least make a living off of what they're doing.
That might be the fundamental distinction about human nature and, like, left-right politics, though. I don't think that people have to be rewarded to that extent to do what they want to do. I think the system is rigged toward making people do what they don't want to do. The opposite incentive is not hard to deal with, I don't think.
Yeah, a society that says do what you're passionate about, not hitting your kids when they want to be cellists.
What?
Cellists. Yeah.
A cellist. Okay, yeah.
I thought you mispronounced the word jealous. I was like, is that a reference?
I thought you kids when they're cellists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people are afraid to go into. People often view in our culture their passions as pipe dreams. I personally don't want the doctor operating on me who just went to medical school to
Yeah.
make money.
You want a guy who's really passionate about having his hands inside you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Which I can find in prison as well.
Oh Lord.
Well, it's a problem, a social
Oh.
problem that we have in our prisons.
My whole perspective on this issue is, I mean, look, the individuals, they have their own motivations, right? And we need to be able to incentivize them to do things. When their incentives go in a direction that harms the rest of the community, that's where the public steps in. That's where the state steps in to regulate them. And, in the case of like with patent law, well, we have to find a compromise between the need of the individual to have that motivation and the need to have this technology get out to the public as quickly as possible.
I just feel like we're going to be, like, as fast as technology seems to be moving, that certainly waiting 16 years for, the big industrial development of the day. I think that's a silly way to.
Because
it's a bad way to run a railroad.
With music, if music was only released 16 years after it was produced, our music industry would literally be moving at the pace of innovation every 16 years. I mean, that's definitely how it would be in that because the current generation always builds off the previous generation. It's the same with fashion. It's really the same with any innovative element of our culture.
Yeah. All right, so we started off talking about 3D printers and how innovation has slowed or pressed or like pushed the envelope of innovation, different perspectives. But how does 3D printing itself, how does that threaten the patent system we have right now? There was an article in Scientific American that I put on everyone's reading list that I thought raised a lot of interesting ideas. In a world where you can download any kind of file, the ones and zeros, as I said earlier, what does it mean if you can download the latest IKEA nightstand and have it built without chipping in IKEA any money,
That means that companies like IKEA won't really exist anymore, or if they do, it'll be as a website where carpenters and builders can release their mock-ups for reproduction. I mean, maybe that's the future. If everybody has 3D printers, if everybody has the ability to do this themselves, free access, maybe companies that we have now that sell certain products will be internet outlets of information.
This is part of the same discussion we were having a couple of weeks ago, right? About like trucks that don't have drivers, or because they're automated now. Anytime you come up with one of these new technologies, there's always jobs that are gonna, I guess, be replaced because of it. So I think that's just something to kind of be expected with any type of new innovation.
I mean, I don't think necessarily that every time a job is created, two more get their wings. You know what I mean? Or every time a job is destroyed by a robot, that two other jobs
cover that Queen album.
You know what I mean?
No. That's I wasn't saying that at all. That's the opposite.
Okay.
I was saying that a new innovation is going to destroy some jobs. I felt it was just part of that same discussion we had a couple of weeks ago. This is
about basic income, just giving everyone a bunch of money. We should return to that idea soon because I have some thoughts about it.
There's one difference though, right? With these 3D printers, whereas with other technologies, it's capitalists who are able to make more money. It's the people who own these big businesses. Here, has a more democratizing influence, right? Where everybody, kind of like with solar panels on your roof, where everybody's going to become like their own little factory, where they're going to be able to mass produce goods on their own.
Obviously, that's far off. Like it being big enough to make something neat in your home is a long way off. It being affordable,
or for it being like the replicator on the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah, your grandkids won't even see that. They're gonna die real young. Because
of the war.
Yeah, it's gonna be because of the apocalypse.
Global warming. It's gonna be like Mad Max.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, God damn it!
All right, that was natural.
I'm gonna start trying to work in a General Zod reference.
No, I won't bother. But all right, so should we be protecting the patents and ideas and imposing scarcity on the digital marketplace of 3D printing graphs, I guess, or models? You know what I mean?
Certainly loaded phrase you just said. Should we?
I like to poison the well.
Should we limiting the knowledge to the proletariat?
Yeah. No, I like to poison the well. Your retort, you capitalist pig. Go ahead.
It'll be kind of like buying music online. You could buy, the software to make, your, I don't know, like a table stand or something, or a coffee table or something in your
Right.
apartment. You purchase it for a couple bucks, and then your little 3D printer goes and makes it. Of course, you're still killing some jobs when you do that, right? The factory itself gets cut out of the picture. But in order to protect the innovator, the person who made the design for it, they can still at least make some profit off of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just feel like that. First of all, especially in the 3D printing community, that kind of open access, that you're not seeing that at all. On Reddit, you can pretty much find your way around any kind of model. You can request them. People will design them. They'll just give them to you.
I got a good printout of a horrible racist comment on Reddit one time.
Oh God.
I mean, there's the open access community doesn't really operate like that. It's like obviously right now it's mostly hobbyists, but for 3D printing, I mean, but
There's always the dark web.
I still feel like we're imposing scarcity on a system that doesn't really need it. I think we have a system where
I think the current system needs it.
That's actually where I'm going. The current system, the way we incentivize people is you need to find some way to make money or you don't get to eat.
And that's such a fundamental thing that it's not questioned. The question is, how do I get to that point? People aren't thinking, should I have this point that I'm trying to get to?
I feel like when the solutions to the problem, we kind of got to get outside the box of how things are,
which is near impossible for a big.
We've already talked about open access. We talked about what else? Sex robots earlier. We also that has nothing to do with this.
God, I love sex robots.
But we also talked about
Come in.
we talked about like scientific and academic publishing. And now we're talking about objects, physical goods, and with
real goods.
And in 10 years, I think it won't be. It'll still be kind of rare, I think, but like 3D printing technology that has different types of materials, much more complex. And whether it's ubiquitous or not, whether the scale of it, that's a different issue. But the idea that we're going to be trying to come up with solutions that really just hold tight to our current system, which I think needs a remedy, is a little. I don't know. I think we have to get beyond that. Just the profit and incentive structure we have right now.
Well, how is it then we are going to? I mean, aside from personal profit or a gun to somebody's head, how do you, push people to work for the collective good?
You let them do what they would naturally want to do, even if it would normally be. See, there's a thing. There's our society doesn't tell you to do. Really, it doesn't tell you what to do, what you're passionate about. I mean, your parents may tell you, but the overriding theme in our entire culture is do it because it'll make a living. You'll make a lot of money. You'll get recognition. So there's probably people out there with passions that they will never even realize, certainly never bring them to fruition. And some of those have to be the important jobs. It can't be that no one likes being a doctor. It can't be that no one likes being an inventor or being a scientist.
Oh, sure. I agree with that completely. You should, push as many people as possible to, do what it is they love and to be able to find their talents. But at the same time, as a society, we have not just jobs, but responsibilities that we all have as citizens that we might not like doing, but we still have to follow. Not everything can be about doing things because this is what you love to do. Certainly, we can incentivize, innovation in music, the arts, that way. But in terms of, getting people to follow traffic laws, we have to use more force, tickets. It's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Not everything can be about, you need rules for society, right?
I don't mean everybody literally doing whatever they want. I'm talking about career-wise, professionally. Obviously, we would still regulate laws. I'm talking about things that have to do with creativity and like it's not important that someone be able to go 100 miles an hour on the highway for society. Like that's no leg up for society. And
soon we'll have plenty of Google cars just zooming us all around at incredible speed.
See, when Google cars take over, we'll have a 60 mile an hour lane, 70 mile an hour lane, 80, and all the cars wanting to go that speed will be in each lane, 2 inches from each other.
Take, for example, going into medicine, right? So we take away the profit motive. We say, be what you want to be, and we'll share in the wealth. To become a doctor, you have to go through. You got your 12 years of primary to high school, right? Then you you got your college, and then you got med school. That is a grueling process for someone to go through. Even if they're enthusiastic about medicine, that's a daunting, or becoming an architect, for example, what they have to go through in studio when they're in college. This is incredibly difficult. And the reason why a lot of people stick it out, even though they love medicine, they might have dropped out if not for the salaries they receive at a certain point in time when they get their own practice, when they become a well-established doctor.
I think there are other ways to motivate people beyond money. That's all. I think still, like, there would be people that tell your kids you want to be either a doctor or a lawyer when you grow up, even if doctors and lawyers weren't the most lucrative jobs in the world. And indeed they even aren't today. No one says to their kids, "Oh, when you grow up, you need to be a venture capitalist. That's what you need to be."
Yes,
you
true.
know, no one says that to their kids. We perceive certain jobs to have value, and getting people to do the ones that are hard or the ones that are a bit more messy. Or whatever. I think there are different ways to motivate people. That's all.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you recommend here to be able to do that? Then what type of incentive structure would we have to create?
Sex robots.
Basic income and sex robots. This is what I've been saying for weeks. Now,
if you go into the profession, you get a free sex robot at the end of the.
Thank you. But no, I mean, I think in my mind, what the answer is over the long haul. I mean, I think if you have a basic income structure that takes away a lot of people's need, I think the battle then becomes not about, right now the fight for 15 is all about minimum wage. I think the next fight for 15 has to be about the hours you work in a week. And even that in itself, if we all pitch in a little bit of our time to a less pleasant job, then we have plenty of time to pursue our own interests at our own level, or at our own pace and our own benefit. The problem is, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, my problem with basic income is it takes care of the redistribution of wealth if done right, because I think that's exactly what we're proposing with basic income, is it gets spread out a little bit more evenly. It's redistributive. I think the problem is it does nothing about the means of production. It doesn't really take care of the ownership. It doesn't take care of the ownership of wealth issue. You know what I mean? Because, a lot of people talk about this being an answer to robots.
Which Adam doesn't think needs answering.
I'm saying bring on the robots. But the answer to robots taking your job, people saying, "Oh, you just give them basic income." I think the more important question about robots taking your job is who owns the robots.
And that's the point I made about 3D printing, right? If the robot is controlled by one person, or if you get like a solar plant that is controlled by one person, that one person controls all the energy. But if you have a solar plant on every home, or if you have a 3D printer in every home, then it becomes more democratic. Now we become more self-sufficient, right? So maybe the solution to all of maybe the solution to the future for all of this is that we become more self-sufficient.
Yeah, I think our individual capacity certainly gets more authoritative, but I think also our connection to each other is probably likely to increase as well. As we have more free time to pursue whatever we want to do, as we become more connected digitally, I don't know. That's how I see it playing out.
I think that the more we eliminate competition, and the more I know that's a bad word, the more we eliminate a competitive feeling within society, and the more we automate, the more free time there will be. I feel like the more jovial we'll be with one another. I think we'll become better social beings as well.
We'll start distributing those gray leotards. You know, my version of Utopia, everyone has those badass shoulder pads on their jackets
from the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to the Future with
I want everyone to dress how they dressed in Bill and Ted. You know,
really,
like a weird shiny robe. On that note, that's given a lot to think about. Shoulder pads. Shiny robes, 3D printing, patents, open access. So join us at Future Left. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. We'll talk to you next week on Future Left Podcast. I'm Adam Simpson here with Casey Rogers and Mike Rufano. Bye, everybody.